without further ado, because I've spoken way too much, here's my dear friend, Maureen.
Oh, thanks, Richard. Oh my God, you guys, I've been a little bit crazy here this morning with stuff happening. Sorry about not being completely present. Thank you for holding space for me. So I just want to be right here right now. Thank you, Zach, for that amazing song. So beautiful every time. God bless you and all that you do in the world. Thank you, Richard and Mari and Joni and all the beautiful helping hands that make this possible. Lisa Chosik, who puts, the whole spiel together. So many people. Thank you. So today we're setting off a series called Call Forth and Claim. And it turned into a series because, there's so much to talk about our word, and, we heard as children, sticks and stones will break our bones, but words will never hurt us. That is pure bullshit. Because, words and sounds, intentions have such great power, greater than all the sticks and stones in the world. And not just the ones that come at me, but the ones that come through me. You have so much power with the power of your words. And when you compare and when we complain and when we despair, those words that come to me are really just echoes of that which I've already released to the world. Don Miguel Ruiz says that, being impeccable with your word is the one agreement that will actually change everything. And this will happen when we work on our consciousness. And everything returns. And what you say, your sound, it echoes back to you like a boomerang. And Proverbs 18:2 says that the tongue has the power for life and death. So are you in the vibe of life or death? Are you in the vibe of love or fear? Are you in the vibe of light or shade? We see people who cast a lot of shade. Sometimes we cast a lot of shade. Sometimes I cast a lot of shade and I'm not completely impeccable with my word. And I feel it. You feel that. It doesn't feel true. It feels like a watered down version. And so we're going to get to look at that this series. In the beginning, there was the word. The word was a sound. The sound was a vibration. The vibration was this movement. But what was moving? Energy was moving. That's the vibration. When something moves, it's escorted by sound. God moved across the waters. And what was the sound that accompanied that move? The wind blows, there's a sound. The leaves rustle, there's a sound. A husband snores, there's a sound. Some of these sounds are more pleasing than others. And we have the sounds that are acceptable, and then we have the sounds that are, ostracized, like snoring and slurping and gunshots. And so even in the sound, we find those blocks to love. Even in sounds, we make meaning of sounds. This is good, this is bad, this is pleasing, this is not pleasing. So with the sounds, we get to have our preferences, but not to let them have us. And we get to learn to appreciate, like Philip Glass is the same way that we appreciate George Gershwin. I went to the orchestra last night, if that tells you anything, and I got to hear both of those composers. And I have my preference. I really love Gershwin. But, it's the thunder and the whisper that we get to invite in together, because the preference can cause a block. So we want to look at the blocks and the biases and the blind spots around what we say and how we say it. Underneath everything, there's a hum. There's a hum beneath your words that tells me everything that I need to know about you. When I work with storytellers and they say, I'm going to just send you my story, I say, no. Please read it to me, because in your reading it, then I'll get to hear your story, because I have clairaudience and I can hear what you're saying. We all have clairaudience. You can develop this. It just requires that you become really impeccable with your listening. And when you become impeccable with your listening, you become more impeccable with what you're able to hear as well, and what you're able to say as well. Maybe you already have this gift. It's given equally to all sons of God. So either way, whether you have it or not, this series is going to bring us closer to the acceptance of that. So it's a vibration. It's a vibe that we want to start with, the vibe that you want to start to pay attention to. You probably heard that saying, your vibe is your tribe, right? These are the radio frequencies that we connect with each other. And this is what you're sending out into the world. Are you sending out these vibrations of love or fear? What are the words, the vibration that's moving across the waters of your life? So we get to look at that vibe, your vibration and the sounds that are accompanying that vibration, because no matter how well we polish up our vocabulary and how articulate we become, the words will never actually bring you past your consciousness. Form follows consciousness. Words are forms, no matter how pretty they are. So we could say, like, I love my husband snoring. But if it's not true, you can hear that lie. And dishonesty brings discord, and dishonesty brings disharmony. And we can hear that. We can hear those false notes. You can hear them. Not harmony. To be in harmony, we get to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I don't really prefer my husband snoring if that's the truth for you. And we get to move past those blocks. But the reason we're not saying the truth is fear, people pleasing, a fear of not getting what we want if we say the words that are not going to be acceptable, fear that people won't like us. And so this disharmony of what's coming out of our mouth holes and what's actually being thought in our body begins to create this fracture and this disconnect. So we have to begin to shore up our consciousness, and then we make peace with our truth, and then we learn how to speak our truth with as much elegance and authenticity as possible, without explanation, without apology, without agitation. In Genesis, when it says that God moved across the water in the beginning, and it says it was the word, of course, it wasn't a word. There were no languages. There was no, alphabets yet. There was only sound. So what was the first sound that escorted that movement of God across the water? Breath. God breathed. God exhaled you. And then she will inhale you one day too. And that's how God made herself known. She breathed across the water. And that sound is how we make ourselves known as well. You enter a coffee shop, the barista staring down at their phone, and you say, what is, that is the universal sound for, hey, I want to be known. And all things let themselves be known by their song or by their sound. A bird sings. Imagine if birds didn't have a sound. We wouldn't know them as well as we do. We would certainly not think of them as often because we wouldn't know their sound. It'd be really weird. It's their sound that reminds us of who they are. The kettle, sings, the train sings, the sound of the rain sings, the baby crying sings, the alarm clock sings, all of them letting us know, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now? The whole world is saying to us. Are we paying attention? I'm here. My sound is part of the great orchestra of God. Your sound is part of the great orchestra of God. Zach's sound is the great orchestra of God. He's a master at this. He's figured it out. He's a volcano of, just a wellspring of this music, these sounds. He's a songwriter, a singer. You don't have to go about being a professional about it, but you do have to take ownership of it. So this is how we begin to call forth and claim. In the month of July, maybe August, we're going to talk about the sounds, the vibration, the sound healing, the power of words, how we use them, how we abuse them, how we infuse them with love. And we're going to talk about how to weave the tapestry of words, to direct energy like prayer and sermons and stories and celebrations. And we're going to talk about the use of silence and how to hold your tongue and listen. And we're going to talk about singing and chanting and humming and all the ways that we make a joyful noise or not. And we make a lot of noise, but are they joyful? We use sound to convey so much. We say, and everybody knows, oh, shit. We say, oh, and everybody knows something gross just happened. We say, our friend Megan, she always says, meh, meh. And we say, it doesn't really matter. It's not the word. It's not the word. These are not words. These are just sounds. But we get the message. We say, oh, it's such a great sound. Try saying it with me. Just try hear yourself saying, oh. When you say that, you can't help but smile, right? It's kind of funny. You know, they say when you do laughing yoga, that it doesn't matter if if the laugh is real or not, your body responds to this sound of laughter. I heard someone laugh this morning on the calls, and it sounded so beautiful that I had to remind her to listen to her own laughter, because her laughter is like medicine to the world. So you don't have to be in awe to experience the benefits of the sound of awe. You just did it. You just went, oh, and there was something that happened energetically in your body. Your sound moved across the waters. I love the sound. I'm somebody who makes a lot of noise when I eat. My sisters tease me about it all the time, and I get self-conscious about it, but I love food so much that I can't help. I'm a very vocal eater. And in that, everybody knows exactly what you're saying when you make these sounds. So we want to be impeccable, not just about the words, but about the sounds. We want to be able to really look at the sounds. And it's so much so that I wonder about these sounds. I wonder if we were to do a scientific experiment and to go about a day and see if you could only communicate with just sound, with not words. You know, maybe one day this week, you might want to try that, to just use sounds like or and see how much you could communicate. I think it would be a fun experiment. Either way, we're going to start off thinking about the sounds. A Course in Miracles says to us about words, it says words are just symbols twice removed, just symbols that are set up to represent ideas, but these words actually fail us. Kyle Gibran says that words murder thought, because when you say the word cat, you think of a furry little animal, yet the word cat cannot contain the experience of like actually holding a cat. Especially, you tell us a lot about this idea of cat when you say cat, or you say cat. You know, cat is so much more than cat. Actually, cat deserves a whole orchestra to attempt to encompass all that is represented in the word cat, and yet we attempt to contain it in these 3 little letters of cat. You could say the same thing about mom, the sound of mom. You know, it said that the word mom is almost exactly the same in every language. German, it's Mater. In French, it's Mare. In Russian, it's Mat. In Spanish, it's Madre. There's Mater, there's Mater, there's Mama, you know, so, but they're all very similar. The baby learns to go mama, mama. Or dad. These little symbols help us to communicate, and they're used to communicate, but they also can obstruct communication because they can never contain what's held in our hearts. When we think of mom or dad or God, these are such little simple sounds for something so immense. And so we want to attempt to murder our words so that we can entertain the experience. And then that will help us get even more impeccable with our words. And that's why we often hear like, be still and just know God. We can't speak of God. We can't speak of love. Even when Zach does such an exceptional, job of singing about, oneness, it still doesn't always get us all the way there, because we have to experience that. We will never be able to speak about the ocean, no matter how poetic, no matter how articulate we are. We will never be able to conjure the words to tell our friend about the ocean and deliver to the ears of our friend what ocean is until they actually experience it. The libraries of wisdom that will be theirs when they simply dive into the ocean. Then they'll know. So words are good, and we can learn to use them for good. But before we do that, we want to learn how to first court the silence and pay attention to the vibration. And to court silence, not out of fear, but out of curiosity. And you might want to think about this. Like those who fear the silence, speak. And those who fear their voices stay silent. And which one are you? It's okay. It's okay to be afraid of your own voice. It's okay to be afraid of silence. I'm one who's afraid of silence. You might have noticed that. I had a man come to my community once, and he sat in the front row when we were in brick and mortar, and he folded his arms across his chest and he just stared at me. And when you get that one guy in the audience and all of a sudden all your direction goes right towards them, like, I need to make them like me. And he just stared, and he never allowed himself to move past his posture of judgment and fear. And a few weeks later, I ended up sitting down next to him at a dinner party. And at that point, he couldn't stop yammering at me. And he told me that he came to my church. And he said, "Do you remember me? I sat in the front row and I had my hand crossed like this." And I said, "Yeah, I remember." And I asked him, "Why didn't you talk?" Because it's speakeasy. And we say, "Everybody, come on, talk." And he said, "Well," these were his words that he said to me, "I didn't want to ingratiate myself to you." I don't know why, you guys, but that hit me in the heart so hard. I was like, why would you not want to ingratiate yourself to me? And he said, "You got to understand, I'm Catholic. Just being there in your church made me feel like I was going to hell. I had to stay silent." So, and here's the thing, he wasn't silent. His consciousness of fear was felt. In fact, it was the loudest thing in the room. So that's what your vibe does. Is that the echo that you want to leave? So we're going to talk about this. Not just what we say, but when we say it, timing, place, purpose, what you allow yourself to say in church, what you allow yourself to say in the locker room, what you allow yourself to say in front of people, what you allow yourself to say behind their backs. In A Course in Miracles, honesty is defined as being consistent. Who I am in the bar is the same person that you will see in the pulpit. But if I wear 100 masks and separate myself and fracture myself, I will never be able to be seen and heard and healed and holy, and I will always eclipse myself and always eclipse myself. So we want to strip back those masks that are, fooling no one, and just say what we mean and learn how to say what we mean. And we want to look at the words and we want to pair them with your honest experience of the moment. And then that might heal. And that's what happens in the 12-step community. People just say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They call it rigorous honesty. Let your honesty be so fully expressed. Don't worry about your words so much. Because here's the truth, like we explained with the intonation, like you could say to somebody, "You're crazy. You're just crazy. I'm serious." You're like, "You're absolutely insane." Those are words. And then you could say to somebody else, "You're crazy. You're you're absolutely insane. Like, I'm serious." So it's the same words, but they sound very different. On the morning call this morning, this woman, Betty, I don't know if she's here, but she shared this story, and I hope she's okay with me sharing it. But she was saying that her grandson thinks that she's a play toy. And when he comes over, he always pulls her hair. And she was getting really frustrated with him. And she said that she wanted to say to him, "Stop it, or I'm going to kill you." But she caught herself and she thought, and she listened. And what she heard was to say this: "Stop it, or I'm going to kiss you all over your face." And he just started laughing, but he got the message. Isn't that interesting? Betty is a person of color. And I asked her if her grandson was a person of color. And she said, yes. And I said, it's really important, these words, because we live in a society that wants to kill people. And so we have to be impeccable about our words. When we went around in the 1980s saying that drug addicts and alcoholics, or drug addicts and gay people were sick, oh my God, they're so sick. They're so sick. And next thing you know, we have AIDS that affects all these drug addicts and gay people. We have to be really careful about what we call forth and claim. So we want to look at the intent, because we all have a sound signature. Each of us has a sound signature. We have habits, we have patterns that come out from our intentions, and we might not be aware of your own patterns and your own tonalities. I remember there was a good time in my life when I would say to my husband all the time, "What's the matter? What's the matter? Is everything okay?" How was I asking that? I kept going, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" 'Cause I must have been afraid that the other shoe was going to drop or something was going to happen. I didn't really notice it, but he would always tell me, "Why you always say that?" And then I had to pay attention to it. And I remember my sister came to visit me one time, and oh my God, every other word out of her mouth was, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And I was like, "Why do you keep saying you're sorry?" So we don't know, we're blind to our own patterns sometimes. And we want to ask each other, help me to be impeccable with my words. What are my patterns? I have this one friend from New Jersey, Maureen Hall. She always says this. Let me put it this way. Whenever she's explaining anything, let me put it this way. She says it so often, I had to call her on it. I was like, what do you mean? And my friend Beth Gordon, and she always starts out saying things by saying, well, I was going to say this. I was like, you're actually saying it. You don't have to say, I'm going to say it, because you're saying it. So, there's tones that we hear, there's tonalities, there's patterns. I'm not actually sure if you can teach somebody to hear those tones and tonalities. I believe that you can. And I believe that if we talk about this, it will bring it into a greater degree of awareness, and that awareness will bring you into a greater degree of being able to work with the tones and tonalities of your own vibe that inform your world. Your world is a demonstration of your words. A Course in Miracles tells us to use our words. It says, to ask your higher teacher, like, where would you have me go? What would you have me say? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? What you say and where you say it and to whom, and the intention and the tone and the truth, it all affects the fluidity and the joy of your life. So we're going to spend time listening this week to just listen, to just begin to listen to your vibe. There's a story about the Himba tribe. And it says that in the Himba tribe, the women there, when the woman becomes aware that she wants to give birth, she goes and she sits in silence under a tree alone, and she listens carefully until she hears the song of the child that wishes to come to her. I think that's so beautiful. In this story, we're talking about women and babies, but everyone has access to listen to the concepts. When you can get so good at this that you no longer even have to really find a special place to sit. Like, I'm sure at this point, like, I keep using Zach as an example, but like, I'm sure that he just lets the concepts of songs come to him, and then he knows how to birth them. He listens to the songs. So she listens to the concepts of this baby. And when she hears the song, she goes back to the man that she wants to conceive with, and she teaches him the song. I think that's so beautiful. Then they become physical, they unite, they conceive a child, and then they sing the song of birth, and they invite the child to come to them through the song. And then once the woman ends up having the baby, she teaches a song to the midwife and to the elder women of the tribe, so that when the baby actually is born, that they all can sing the child in. And they sing the child in, and they welcome it into the world with this song. Can you imagine? So when the child grows, the birth song is sung to the child in every phase, even when he or she falls down or cries or something wonderful or terrible happens. The song is also sung when a child reaches puberty. And apart from these occasions, it's said that the song is also sung when the person commits a crime or a trespass. And the child or the person is invited to stand in the village center, and all the people of the community hold hands in a circle around him or her, and they sing the birth song, reminding them of their origin, its innocence, and embracing its identity. Now, the Himba tribe believes in correction and not in punishment. And in their tribe, they say that the song can bring you back into alignment with the memory of who you are and whose you are. We didn't do that, probably. Nobody created a song for us, but that doesn't mean that it's too late. Music and melody, as I spoke last week, is so powerful. It's how we learn things. It's how we learn things about ourselves. It's how we learn the alphabet. Remember, A, B, C, D. It's how we work our memory. When I used to bring songs into adult living facilities and I would sing them songs, you would sometimes see like an old person roll in like an old dried up house plant. And then all of a sudden you'd start singing a song and they'd literally come to life. And they would start singing the song. It was incredible. It was like a miracle. It was like raising the dead. This is how we also calm our nervous system, is through the sounds. It's how we help babies go off to sleep, is the sounds, the vibes, the songs, the vibes that are moving across the waters in the moment of your conception. What was that song that moved across the water at your moment of conception? This week, I want to invite you to listen for that sound, for your vibe. Listen to your divine mother singing to you. What are the notes and the meaning and the musings that make up the sound of your soul? If you can't hear it, there's a section of A Course in Miracles that tells us who we are. And they say you can sing it to the tune of Oh Danny Boy. So I'm going to try that out for you. And you can use this song this week if you can't find your own song. You are God's son, complete and healed and whole, shining in reflection of his love. In you is his creation sanctified and guaranteed eternal life.